as we go if you want to.
Welcome. My name is Corinne Waldow. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Boulder Chamber. I want to thank you for joining this week's critical and non-critical manufacturing call. This will be the last week that is on Thursdays. As of next week, we'll be combining it with office and field services. That schedule will be presented later, but I just wanted you to be aware that this will be moving to Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. I want to thank Boulder County Public Health for continuing to offer these opportunities for you to get updated information, ask your questions, and provide feedback. It is really important that we all follow these safe requirements for reopening because it is our economy as a whole that will benefit. We've heard of recent complaints from employees and customers who are coming in asking and questioning businesses as to whether or not they're safe. So each of you being on this call is important to understand the safe practices to help our economy as a whole and the health of our community. Please put your Q&A in the Q&A feature. I'll ask on your behalf. And if you'd like, you can raise your hand and I'll open it up for you to ask the questions since we have limited numbers today. At this time, I'm going to pass it off to Alexandra Phillips, who has been doing manufacturing with Boulder County Public Health.
Thanks, Corinne, and thank you to the Chamber. And thank you everyone for joining us. As Corinne said, it's about staying healthy so we can get the economy going again. This is for critical and non-critical manufacturing. And the agenda is we're going to go over a couple of quick updates, resources for you, and also the guidelines that are specific to manufacturing, and then lots of Q&A as well. The compliance with the orders is obligatory, and that's coming down from the state, and that's health driven. The requirements are frequently changing. As a matter of fact, just May 18th, there was a new order on masks for that directly addressed critical manufacturing, that strengthened the language on that. So that's frequently changing, so it's good to get on these webinars as you can. Boulder County Public Health, BCPH, Boulder County Public Health is working to help get that information out to you as much as we can. If you have additional questions about compliance, sometimes we can't answer everything though, and sometimes you'll need to contact your own attorney. So timeline, as many of you know, the Safer at Home was extended through June 30th. On June 1st, there were some changes that didn't affect manufacturing. And then June 4th, today, other ones, recreation, houses of worship, new orders are coming out. The long-term outlook is that the Safer Home is going to evolve. It's not just going to go away on June 30th. I know we all wish it would. We wish we could all just be healthy and go on, but it's just going to evolve, and there's really, it's going to be months and months until we are out of this. So on that note, just because things are evolving, it doesn't mean that the COVID has become any less contagious. It's still just as contagious. So continue to stay at home, and face coverings. And then somebody came out with, when in doubt, bring it out, which is good. And we'll talk more about face coverings later too. I see that another colleague from Boulder County Public Health, Jesse Rounds, just joined us, so you can hop in any second. I am going to close my window because I'm in the midst of a windstorm right now. I don't know if you were hearing that. Okay. So one of the big questions I get for manufacturing is what is the difference between what critical manufacturing and non-critical manufacturing does, and what rules they have to go by. So the critical manufacturing has, both types of manufacturing have to go by the general guidelines. And they cover deputizing a coordinator to address COVID issues. And I want to make a note on that. I was just talking to a manufacturer yesterday, and their coordinator and the person who was collecting all the information and trying to get it out wasn't actually on the floor. They were working in the office side, which is great because they're able to communicate with me and check out stuff on their website. But I would recommend, we actually came up with the idea to also have somebody on the floor who's a well-respected, and if you have a lot of non-English speakers, to find someone who is speaks the language, if maybe it's Spanish, that can help people understand about 6-foot distancing, get the education out, all that. So that would be a suggestion with the deputizing the coordinator, is to also have somebody on the floor that speaks the language that most people speak. Another one of the overarching guidelines that all types of manufacturing have to go by is eliminate or regularly sanitize anything that's touched by a lot of different people. Provide flexible or remote scheduling, so they're not all in the facility at the same time. Wear masks, I talked about this before. So with critical manufacturing, anytime you cannot maintain that 6-foot distancing, you must wear a mask. And 6-foot distancing when possible. So that's all the overarching for all manufacturing. For non-critical, there is more than what just shows on this screen, but the most important key pieces for the non-critical to follow is that there's no more than 10 employees in one site, which the definition of the site, I should have changed that, is a room. So in one room where they can maintain 6-foot distancing, there can be no more than 10 employees. So if you have separate rooms where you can have more than 10 employees at a facility, and each room can accommodate 10 people with the 6-foot distancing. The non-critical also mentions the one-way flow of work and people. So maybe there's maybe you used to come in and out the same door, but now you'll put arrows on the floor to say, come in this way and leave this other way, so people don't pass each other as much. And use barriers between workers whenever possible. A lot of people are using plexiglass for this, or other kinds of plastic, to separate out the people. And as I said, this is just for non-critical, but it's a really good idea for critical too, because the whole point of all this is to stop the spread of the disease. Lots of information out there. The very first one is the county website, and you can get to it pretty quickly by boco.org, COVID-19 business. I'm going to show you a slightly different way in, because things are moving around as things change, because things are changing. Sometimes the websites change. The other website that's a really good one is the state one, covid19.colorado.gov. That's the state website. Of course, the Boulder Chamber of Commerce is a really great place to go. So to our website, as I said, things are moving. So if you just put in the Boulder County website and see that part circled in yellow, click on that COVID-19 in the top banner there of the Boulder County website. And then you'll get to this page, and I have two things circled in purple here. One is the updates, and that's always a good place to look to see for the latest. On the right navigation bar, it says for business. And if you click on that, that will bring you to what I've been talking about, all the guidance for the critical and non-critical manufacturing, and also bring you to the guidance for all the other sectors, including office, which a lot of manufacturing also have an office side, so that's a good one to check out. It also brings you to the link of posters in Spanish and in English. And then I need to mention Manufacturer's Edge, which is a really wonderful resource for manufacturers. Here's a screenshot of their website. They are really helpful, and I would recommend reaching out to them, Manufacturer's Edge, and they can help with, for example, figuring out different configurations for the facility so people can maintain that 6 foot distancing and still get their jobs done. So they're a really good resource. So what happens if there's an outbreak? An outbreak is defined as 2 or more employees with confirmed or suspected within a 14-day period. And the thing to do is immediately report that to the Boulder, Boulder County Department of Health through the form. And once you report it, the sooner you report it, the more actions that can be done that don't require shutting down. Cleaning, talking about what's going on, when the last time that an ill employee was in, things like that. So it doesn't automatically go to shutting down. So I'd recommend, if there is 2 or more employees and you think you have, even if you think you have an outbreak, to contact Boulder County Public Health. And if there's 1 employee that is sick, of course, send that employee home right away and clean out their anything that they've touched right away, any area where they've been. And here's what Corinne was talking about, that our these webinars will be changing starting next week. Manufacturing will be at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays with office and field services and real estate. And that makes sense because I was saying before that a lot of manufacturing has also office space. Offices need to be at 50% capacity, also at most 50% capacity to be able to maintain that 6 foot distancing. So it'd be like every other desk, of course, wearing masks when you're coming in contact with anybody else. And here's our website to go to the county and COVID biz at bouldercounty.org and email us questions. If you heard something on this webinar and can't find what the resource we're talking about, let us know. You can also call the call center, which is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And the call center and the email has been created to help answer questions. We want to help you have the information and the resources to help stop the virus. Were there questions that came in or anything Jesse or Carmen want to add?
Well, I think with Jesse now on the call, Jesse, I've gotten quite a few manufacturers and office that have emailed me and said, okay, I see that restaurants can now have 50%, and I'm hearing that gyms may be able to open a limited capacity. Are there any changes for manufacturing? When might the next set of changes come in? What does the next 30 days look like?
Well, we, just like you, we do not know necessarily when changes will be made to the public health order. You can generally guess that any major changes will occur sort of at the end of a public health order. They're usually set for about a month. But I think in terms of seeing a lot of changes for gyms or restaurants and when that will change for manufacturing, I will say that there is, there's an opportunity for businesses to comment to the state, and we're hearing a lot of concerns from businesses, and we're communicating that to the state as well. And so I think as much as things haven't changed, the system is working, the information is getting from the businesses to the decision makers. And I do, at some point in the future, we will get, specific changes to all of our industries that will allow them to operate in a bit more of a familiar fashion.
But most companies should be expecting it to be in some sort of safer at home for many more months, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of the changes that are happening are actually bringing certain industries closer to that 50% that both the office is at now, or that some of the other industries are at now.
A lot of, yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that there's, yeah, gyms, for example, weren't open before. So the significant change for gyms it seems significant because they were not open before, but it's more like we're just bringing them in line with other industries that are already open. And I think manufacturing, I see it in the future, again, like you said, Corinne, this is going to be some level of unusual for months, but I do see a movement towards standardizing across industries so that everyone understands that all businesses are operating in sort of the same environment.
Thank you, Jesse, for clarifying that, because I've gotten a lot of emails that say, oh, is it, June 1st, are we open full capacity? And the answer is,
nope.
That's the end of any public health order is just probably going to be a revision, and we'll know if it's going to be a revision to loosen some standards for some industries. Hopefully we can have more. So Alexandra, I have a question about, we've heard the term cohorts in some of the education. We've heard, you want to keep similar people on similar shifts so that you can make sure the exposure is limited. How does that work in manufacturing?
You can have 2 different shifts or separate people out. As I was saying with the non-critical manufacturing, there is only 10 people allowed in one space at a time. So to keep those same 10 people working within that space and a separate set of 10 people in another space. So if there does happen to be one person that gets ill, it doesn't spread throughout the entire area. Another way to do that is actually within that 10 people or whatever group you're working with is to stagger breaks and lunch shifts. So not everyone is picking up and going into the break room at once. You can even eliminate, if you can, the places, the break rooms. Another thing that I was talking with a manufacturer yesterday, and I know, and she was saying that people really like to sit at lunch together. People want to talk, and they forget. They just want to sit down and share lunch or talk. And to actually have seats in there, but then put items in some of the seats in the lunchroom, which would force them and remind them to sit 6 feet apart.
Some people have used tape to mark where the chairs can be encouraged. It's nice out, so encouraging people to eat outside in the fresh air. But we've also heard, oh, I didn't think about if everybody is coming into a door at the same time, even though they're socially distanced when they come in, there's that grouping of people if they are starting the shifts at the same time. So the idea is to keep the same 10 people together for at least a period of time so that you're not cross-exposing your employees.
Exactly.
Okay. So when you talk about a room or and so forth, what designates a room? Is it 4 walls and a door? Or is it half walls? What designates a room?
4 walls and a door is the definition of room. And even within that room, you can have up to 10 people for non-critical manufacturing, but they must be able to maintain that 6-foot social distancing as much as possible. For critical manufacturing, there is no limit on the people within the room, but you still need to be able to maintain that 6-foot social distancing as much as you possibly can and wear masks. And as I said, that was something that was not originally in with critical manufacturing, but they have strengthened the language on the mask wearing for the critical manufacturing. And I think that's, from everything we're seeing and hearing, the mask wearing is really going to be key to stopping the spread.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about identifying a COVID coordinator or somebody to do it. Are some companies doing 1 per shift so that that person's not responsible for the both shifts? We've gotten that question in hotels, but also in manufacturing.
I actually hadn't, yes, that's an excellent idea, to do that per shift. And as I said, have somebody, you don't need just to have one. If you want, you can have somebody who's on the floor in the manufacturing facility that is also somebody who knows that there's these posters and can be briefed in maybe more detail on the information, so they can help remind people and get the information out. So yeah, at least one person per shift is a great idea.
All right, I have a question that came in. If you could go into a little bit more detail about the current requirements for temperature monitoring and symptom checks.
Mm-hmm. To check your temperature and the symptom checks before each shift. Some of the symptoms, one of them is a little unusual, which is recent loss of taste or smell. If you have a temperature of above 104, a cough. And then Jesse, can you talk about, I know that there was a little bit of privacy issues concerned here. Did you want to touch on that?
I mean, I can do that a little bit. And I think, Corinne, you've mentioned it in previous sessions. These industries are generally not covered by HIPAA. So there are not the same privacy concerns that would be occurring if you were collecting this in a healthcare setting where the federal government has provided protections for this data. So it is okay to collect this data. It is okay to keep it. It's important to keep it because we can see trends and things like that in temperatures if there were to be an outbreak. But in this case, HIPAA does not apply to the collection of temperature and symptom data.
The current status is that every employee must, whether it's call it in or email it in beforehand or do it on site, must do a temperature check and a symptom check at the start of their shift, correct?
Yep. And if they have any of those symptoms, they need to be sent home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the temperature, I think you said 104, and I was like, ooh, that person's really sick. 100.4 is the temperature level in which.
Thanks, Corinne. Yeah,
I was a little concerned there. So we have 100.4 is that temperature. Now we've noticed with some manufacturers that use the thermometers and people are coming in, it's hot outside. You might have to have the person wait and cool down a little bit if you're doing temperature checks on site because of the heat outside, because of some higher readings that some have mentioned.
Yes.
And so we talk about the privacy. When some of the resources that I send, there's an EEOC guide. It's about 25 pages and everything you need to know about, the safety of your employees' information. One of the things is that it shouldn't be a public document, something that, everybody can see everybody's temperature. And that's why you have that coordinator to be able to, collect the information for all of, for the employees on a shift. So it's not some sort of public document. That's one safety protocol that a lot of businesses are following. I think that we don't have any other questions quite yet. So I'm going to give a minute to let people put in questions. But I'm also going to share my screen a second. So there's this new sign that was created by Boulder County Public Health, and it's to get around some of the confusion having to do with masks. And I know that in manufacturing you wear a mask, but your employees may be, do I need to wear a mask when I do this or that, or if I go to outside Boulder County, or if I'm in Lafayette or Erie, or so they created these kind of posters that you can also offer for your employees to see when they need to wear a mask. Wherever you're doing the strictest order follows. So I'm going to really quickly share my screen to show you guys this document. So this right here is, your employees might be coming and asking you questions because you might have more information than they have, but this is just out in the public. You know, it shows here that when you're required to wear a mask, you go into a dental office or you go into limited healthcare, which Jesse knows really well. You go to get your hair cut. Anywhere in Boulder County, you need to wear a mask. Oh, it stopped sharing that.
Oh,
But,
it
Not
did?
sharing.
oh, it's still sharing? Great.
Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not.
No, we
Let me
haven't
share.
seen your,
There you
your
go.
thing yet.
Yep.
Oh, there we
it
go.
is.
Oh,
Okay.
that's great.
So
Yes.
here's the document. So, you know, you're going to retail. Where is it required? If you're going out in offices, it shows where it's required in offices. Manufacturing, as you see, it's required in all areas. So this might be just a nice little sign resource that you can offer in the break rooms or in some area to help your employees also see that it's not just manufacturing or masks are required, that it is part of our everyday life in Boulder County and how to navigate Louisville versus Erie versus Boulder and all of that. So I just wanted to share that because that's a nice little resource that Boulder County Public Health created this week.
Thank you, Corinne. That is.
You're welcome. In closing, do you guys have anything to add?
I would just, I would say, first of all, thank you very much for continuing to offer these, and please do come to next week's that are going to be more grouped together, but we're still going to go over the same information. And we are committed to keeping up with the changes in the public health orders, communicating with the state what our residents' concerns are regarding the public health order and how easy or hard it is to adhere to that public health order. And you know, please keep questions coming. Use the email, use the phone number, and we've got a great group of people who are trying to get answers as quickly as possible. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you both. We'll see you next week, Tuesday at 2 o'clock with Office Real Estate and Field Services. You know, a lot of the more employee-centric businesses. And then again, any updates that come in during that time, we'll try to update in those webinars. Always ask your questions. This is about making sure you have a safe practice, a safe location for your employees and your vendors. And if you bring in customers, we want to build employee and customer confidence in our community so that we can get our economy up and rolling in a safer fashion and one that protects our health. We'll see you next week, and I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon and stay safe with all those windstorms out there.
Thank you, everybody.